Hello everyone and welcome to the latest edition of GamblingCare.ie podcast. We've already had Con Kilpatrick on, Richie Power and myself. Today it's more one-to-one. We've got Stefan Campbell, fresh from winning an All-Ireland with Armagh. Stefan, how are you?
Not too bad, Oisin. Delighted to be on.
And thanks for agreeing to come on. But before we get into some of the more serious stuff, how's the last 4 weeks been for you?
Yeah, it's something different, a wee bit surreal. I think last week was the first 5-day week I'd done in work there in a few months, so it was a long slog for me. But just going back to the week of the game, it was unbelievable. Probably found it hard to articulate, in the aftermath, but having time to reflect, I think it was everything you imagined, watching you guys do it, and then watching the Dubs do it, so often. And the carries, obviously, it was just unbelievable. It was everything I imagined and probably more. And somebody actually mentioned to me the other day, do you not regret, maybe, is there a feeling there within the team or in the squad that you sort of liked, the fans and the field, And I was kind of split. I couldn't really answer it because obviously you've experienced that, but a lot of us players have been through so much together, and it was really good, to experience that and go around each stand and look up into the hill, just the stuff you dream of. And I think my preference was, players on the field on their own, just to get to experience that. It was unbelievable, yeah.
I suppose the reason why we wanted you on the podcast is that you've been very public about your struggles with gambling. How many years now have you been free?
June 17, 2018. 6 years.
So 6 years. My first question to you is a bit of a strange question, but can you imagine the build-up, the game and the aftermath had you been still in the midst of a gambling addiction?
No. In hindsight, I think when you're going through the depths, like, I don't know about you, but like, you find it hard to recall and recollect and have these memories. Like, even when I was really struggling through like 14, 15, 16, like, I couldn't break down that year for you. I can't really decipher what the difference between the league and championship that year, and some days I might have got away with it and kicked a few points, but when I think back to them days, it's just like, you're just so selfish and narrow-minded, and looking back now, everything was just grey around you. So, to answer the question, I'm like, it's probably the best thing I ever done was make the decision to come clean back then, because I wouldn't have been able to experience what I experienced over the last, I suppose, 3 or 4 weeks. And it wouldn't have been possible. It wouldn't have been possible unless I didn't make that call back then anyway.
And the build-up, when you talk about, enjoying your own company or having to come to terms with the fact that you're not starting, would that reaction have been a lot different had you been in the midst of an addiction?
Yeah, I would have been prone to making the odd rash decision. In the face of adversity or whatever, or maybe being told something that you didn't like. I'll take it back to when Down came to the Athletic Grounds after being beaten in the All-Ireland final. I had asked Paddy O'Rourke for a game for the club the week previous, and he never let me play, basically. So I got my hopes up. He wasn't going to release me for the club, that I was going to be involved. Even just getting into 24 back then, 26. Got my hopes up during the week. Wasn't named in the panel on the Wednesday or Thursday night, and just never showed up to the game. I think Liverpool had a game that evening. Right, a big Champions League game. And to be honest, I watched Liverpool ahead of Armagh, in the Down game that night. And that was me. That was me done at that stage. Only Paddy lifted the phone a few days later, give me the benefit of the doubt due to my probably my age at that time. But I'd probably only been 20, 21 years of age. But just things that got along the way that fast forward, you know, to now that.
And do you think that part of that was because of where you were in your own head and in your life at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So you only care about yourself. You know, you're not selfish. You're not thinking, oh, it's a team game here, or I'm only in the panel in 6 months or 12 months. Like, in hindsight, I wasn't ready to take the field. Do you know what I mean? I was in that panel serving almost, do you know, an apprenticeship, if you like. And just the way your head is at that stage, it's all about you. I get told something that I didn't want to hear, and you react in a way that really isn't acceptable. But yeah, fast forward to today, you're much more, you're better, you're hardwired almost to accept these things with maturity, I suppose, rather than, you know, quitting at the first opportunity.
How much does the thinking change between, you know, being in the midst of a gambling addiction and then getting out the far side? How much does the thinking change?
I think you go from one extreme to the other in terms of like highs and lows. As you say, like, keep referring back to yourself. Obviously, you've been through it all. You're probably you know everything. You have experienced everything that I'm going to say. But like, you could have a great weekend and feel, you know, invincible, and then for the next 6 weeks, the world's against you because you have no money. You know, you have nothing. All the boys are going out. You're sitting in, you're making excuses, you're trying to get a land of money. And that was basically my life, you know, for the best part 10 years, at least. But since 2018, it took me a while to probably to understand. It took me a while to get out and think clearly and see clearly for myself. But like I would say to anyone, you know, it's the quality of life that you experience after you do, you know, give it up. It's probably saved my career in a way too. I felt that if I'd have played against my own will, the way my head was, like I didn't quit that. I didn't leave the panel that year to go and, you know, sort myself out.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the head to go back and do a pre-season. And then the way the next few months transpired, a few things happened. I got an offer from America, and then I was able to, you know, take it step by step from there. But yeah, it was, I think the quality of life for anybody listening, like if you're getting it, you know, if you are in danger of putting yourself out financially, breaking promises to your partners, I think like now would be the time to come clean, just to save that 5 or 10 years hurt that we've been through. Like I was chatting to a guy just last week. He DM'd me after seeing one of the quotes that popped up on Instagram, and like anybody that reaches out to me, I like, look, I'm not a professional here.
Yeah.
I can only, you know, recommend and give you my experience. Like, and he told me, look, I'm blowing on with disposable income here. Bills aren't a factor. There's still a good family life. And then in his last voice note, he'd said, I had a holiday to pay for only last week, and I had a phone up to see could the hold the payment off to the end of the month. And I goes, that's it. You have to come clean now. Just look, I know you don't want to have that conversation, but trust me, it'll save you 10 years of hurt. And if you reckon it's X amount of money that you've blown in the last few years, times that by 10, and it could be 100k in the next 5 or 10 years. So texted me next morning, and he'd set the wife down, came clean, and he said he was going down to the parents' house too that afternoon. So it's things like that I can relate to, and obviously give people recommendations just based on my experience.
Yeah, but you see, you're not qualified, or you're not, you know, professional, but you've lived experience. That's more important than any qualification, really.
Yeah, I think.
And when it comes to helping people, once you've made that clear, you know, like people are looking to you, like they're looking to to Con and the young lads who have come out and been brave enough to say it. Like, I mean, I suppose the big thing for me is when you talk about, the highs and the lows.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one thing that I found, because I used to get very, very, very high and very, very, very low,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, there was more of an equilibrium. There was more stuff that was happening in here. There was no big highs, no big lows, and you get challenged. Look at, like, guys like us still have the same. We still pay the bill. We still have to pay the bills. We still have to. We still have the emotional issues. We still have the relationship problems. We still have, but they're not as insurmountable as they once seemed. And one of the things I've always thought about you is that how dignified you've been about, how you've gone about things, how you've shared things. But when you decided to share the fact that you were done with gambling, or that you were a year done with gambling, whatever it was, why did you decide to make that public?
I think it was a big milestone. It's something that I tried and failed before a number of times. And the closest I got was 2015. I think I got about 3 or 4 months, maybe stretched to 5 months, but the year was the big one for me. And I think I had the first, probably, I was getting it, even though it was a year in, I got it harder in that period, and I didn't want to give in. So I thought by putting that tweet out that it was a year in, I was holding myself accountable because of my social media following, which I couldn't afford. If I did the relapse, I wouldn't have went into a bookmaker because it would have been recognised. So that was just me holding myself accountable. I was probably getting it hard at the time, and it was, for me, it was a great choice to do that. Obviously we're 6 years in now, but I got a lot of support off that, and to be fair, it actually blew my mind, like, just up and down the country, people, and then messaging me, asking how I got to the year. I know we gave a previous example, but there's actually there's a guy I chat to regularly also. He had seen that tweet after the year, and he stopped that day, and he wrote to me in June again and thanked me, for putting that tweet out, because he's a year behind me, similar date, sorry, maybe a few days off, but it's things like that. It's support that you receive off the back of that. It's the accountability. Being, obviously, a lot of people know me locally. If that's out there, I can't go into the bookies, can't bet online, and that was my coping mechanism at the start, and it worked. Yeah, and I'm proud of that.
So it's a bit of a safety net, I suppose, for you as well.
Yeah.
But like, it's such a brave thing to do, because, like, when I had my issues and I wasn't on social media, I decided I was going to write a book. But when I wrote that book, I have to say 90% of what came back to me was positive, and then I had to deal or sift through the rest of the wreckage. Because I suppose the one thing that happens when you're gambling is, you say yourself, is you've no regard for anybody else around you. So there's a lot of repairing to do. There's a lot of repairing relationship-wise, and friendships, and for teammates, and for family members, work colleagues, whatever it is. How did you find that? So the change from I'm gambling, I'm a compulsive gambler, to I'm in recovery and now I want to build some bridges.
It was tough at the start. I had to make a lot of lifestyle changes as well.
What, like?
Like, for example, something just as simple as our home house there would be a meeting hub, for the family on Saturdays. And you know what's going on Saturday, like, it's soccer Saturday, everyone's having the crack, the nephews and all that, the brothers, the uncles, whatever. And it's things I got there, right? So I'm having to plan my week, plan my Saturday around not being there, during them 4 or 5 hours that the house is, being wrecked. But it's wee things I got there. One of the boys might text you heading out. you're having to think ahead about where you plan to go on, because I don't want to be sitting in a bar where there's 4 screens and 3 horse races on, the football match on, and everyone's, so you've all these lifestyle changes to think about, where you're going to go. But the ones that remain close to you, your close friends, they'll understand that, and they'll park, all that, them conversations that they would be having in WhatsApp groups about, screenshots going in. So once you get over that initial, the first few months, obviously you're settling into a more normal life. The quality of life improves. You spend more time. Was able to spend more time with Ella.
Who's your 13-year-old daughter?
13-year-old daughter, yeah. I know I don't look like I have a 13-year-old, but
saying nothing.
That was a big benefit out of that. So you're going from like such a enclosed, selfish environment that you don't want to go anywhere, only be on your phone, watching whatever, waiting on a result here, to going out and being able to do things with her. There was a lot of lies told. There was a lot of money borrowed, money that I couldn't afford to pay back. And again, I go back to that sort of like network around me. People were more understanding than others. And it was a tough few years, because you're trying to get yourself back, financially. You're trying to get yourself back on track. And I obviously wouldn't have been earning big money back then or whatever, but you're getting your salary, or you're getting your wage, and into your account, and you're seeing huge chunks going out to people that you owed, and that wee voice is in the back of your head going, how am I getting it? How am I getting this money back? Thankfully, it's they're not there as often.
How did you keep those voices at bay at that time? Because the voices are telling you, look at, one big bet's gonna, big bet will sort all that out.
Yeah. I think that's what got us all. That's what got us there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like, on a job where, I remember my pay was, when your pay is due in quarter past 2 on a Thursday or whatever it was, and like I could be gone there by 2:45. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of lifestyle I was living. And then I think when it came in initially, you're thinking, I can just get, £200 on that 64, that's me. There's a bit of debt paid that's not coming out of my own, and that's the way I was thinking. And then next thing you know, half an hour later, your wage is gone, and you haven't the bill paid, and then you're in even more debt coming out of that weekend. So yeah, a lot of people were more understanding than others, but those friends who remained close, are still there now, and I'm thankful for the support that they had, that they gave me, especially in the first year or two when it was a lot tougher for me.
I suppose there's stages. I suppose for me, obviously there's stages of gambling. There's stages of the gambling end of things, which is an obvious thing. The money increases, the time increases, the things you're willing to do in order to get the money to have the bet, and how insidious and dangerous I suppose that gets then. But the stages of recovery, I suppose, from 1 year to 2 year to 3 years, so from 1 year to 6 year, what's the big difference you find from year one, obviously, which is a struggle for all of us, to year 6?
Think, like, we talk about the environment we're in and the lifestyle changes that I had to make. Like, even though I'm sitting in a bar now or a club now full of TVs and everybody's got their phones out and money's flying everywhere, like, it still doesn't enter my mind. So when I go back to year one and the doubts there, the voice is there, maybe even curiosity of, like, if there's a game on, what are them prices? Like, I would have done that in year one, year two, but never obviously considered placing the bet. It was more just curiosity. Whereas now I could, sit in company, and even sit at home there now. It's no issue to me. Soccer Saturdays on, the horse racing's on, the kids are going everywhere, but I'm just happy. I'm just at peace, with the last 6 years and where I've came. I suppose that's the big difference, that clarity and being able to do the things that I couldn't have done and maybe the earlier rounds, the earlier years.
But just for people that are listening, how important was those little things that you talk about, the places, the situations? How important were they initially? For you, it's like we did a 7 steps to recovery, and one of the things we talked about was damage limitation. And to be honest, a couple of people said to me, "What are you talking about, damage limitation?" But that's exactly the stuff that you're after describing to us.
Yeah, and it's probably like people have been looking at my old podcast before, and I've probably been reluctant to speak because I probably didn't go through your standard your recovery process, and I didn't feel, like we mentioned earlier, I didn't feel like I was in a position to probably. I was in a position to share them experiences, but I didn't feel like I was in a position to advise.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not a professional. But I suppose the reason why I'm sitting here is because you feel it. I've met the criteria. I've done a lot. But definitely, if it's them smaller adjustments that I go back to, that I think if I didn't make them, I would have cracked. I definitely would have cracked. And anybody that messages me now, I tell them, like, you need to change your environment. You need to be, if you're going out for drinks, you need to be careful where you're going. You need to be careful who you're going out with. You need to be careful what WhatsApp groups you're in. And also make sure that everyone's aware that what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve here, because all it takes is one screenshot or one tip. That horse is not going to get beat, one of them ones. And then that's you.
Always get beat.
Ones that always get beat. So, yeah, you just need to be really careful in the early stages, because that's when you're at your most vulnerable. And yeah, that's really it.
Brilliant stuff, Stefan. I suppose that for us to round this off, I suppose if you had somebody, or you knew of somebody who was in bother, would there be any advice for them? The most basic, you think of the most basic thing, there's a willingness there for somebody to stop gambling, but they've never actually reached out. What would you say to them?
Because I probably struggled for so long, if I could go back to the start and recall what I was feeling or going through, why wait till you're in the depths of despair? Why wait until you're in so much debt? Why wait till your life's in turmoil and you've hit rock bottom? I know that's what it took for me, but I think for people, what the take out of this would be, even if you're listening to this and you're thinking about reaching out, now's the time to reach out. Don't wait, you've basically nothing left, and your relationship, you've ruined relationships, you're in turmoil. If you think you're in trouble and you're thinking about reaching out, it means you probably are.
So let's say today, like, I'm somebody who's in a similar situation to you, and I'm an inter-county footballer. There's lots of avenues, I suppose, for you to go in order to get that help. The GPA run an unbelievable service as far as mental health, addiction, counselling, treatment, all of those things. And but that's a very small percentage of the playing population within the GA. And this is not just about GA, this is about society, but the GA reflects a lot of what's going on in society. So let's say, for example, you have a teammate in Clonagale who is struggling. Where does he go?
I probably don't feel the club player has as much support as the county player. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I think obviously the county player can just lift the phone and maybe make a call anonymously. But I still feel that the biggest step is putting the hand up, preferably to somebody you trust, somebody who's maybe experienced it before, to get that guideline in the early stages. But I can only recommend what I've experienced. A few people have come to me, not necessarily my club mates, but I do feel that maybe they think there's nowhere to go, because I think our sport maybe just translates itself, and the focus is more on the county player and not necessarily the club player. So I understand that there may be question marks, and hopefully, having listened to this, there's a wee bit more clarity on where to seek that help.
Definitely brilliant. And I suppose just, for those people who are struggling, whether they be club players, administrators, supporters, members, non-members, whatever it is, Gambling Care run a brilliant service, and I think we'll share the number. GamblingCare.ie, visit the website, and you'll find all the information you need. Make the phone call, because when I'm looking at Stefan Campbell and I'm looking at his recovery, your recovery starts, and it's a very tough journey. And after a year, I think that's the first time you shared on social media, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you share that on social media, it has ramifications wider than you will ever know, and the positivity that creates. But for me, that was the catalyst for you to have long-term recovery. You're 6 years in recovery now. For a lot of people, just that initial phone call. So, to make that initial phone call, your gambling will never be the same again. I mean, there's nothing to say that me and you won't, in 2 months' time, walk into the bookies and have a bet. But the thing about recovery and where we're at and the journey we've been on, it means that it's unlikely that we're going to take that step. And I think the reason for that is that, obviously we've talked about it, we've shared it, but once you share it with one other person, whether that be somebody from the family, GP, counsellor, Gamblers Anonymous, Gambling Care, whoever it happens to be, your journey is never the same again. And I think that's the big message I'm taking out of today. I'm so pleased that you agreed to come and do this with us. And look, at this is going to have, as I say, it's going to have reverberations, around the country when people see, your honesty, what you've been through, where you are now, and the possibilities for somebody like you, even though we are getting on a bit, are endless. And congratulations again, and for bringing so much joy to a small county in the north of Ireland.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm an All-Ireland winning footballer for Tyrone.
I've won 8 with Kilkenny.
I have 6 All-Ireland clubs.
I'm a double All-Star.
Me too.
I'm a gambling addict.
I'm a gambling addict.
Me too.
If you take 2 things from this ad,
know that you are not alone.
And there is help for you.